Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to look at the ultimate Ultra Beast deck. Now, I'm not necessarily saying this is the best Ultra Beast deck. We recently looked at a Buzzwole and Pheromosa deck that looked very, very nice indeed. We recently looked at a Guzzlord and Nagadel deck that looked very nice indeed. And of course, the new Nagadel has been at the center of a bunch of really good decks. What I mean is, it is the ultra beastiest deck that I have seen people doing well with really in a very long time. There are no fewer than 6 unique Ultra Beasts represented in this deck, plus a tag team. That's cool, right? I think it's cool. Let's have a gander, shall we? So the Ultra Beast in it plays, starting off then, we've got Celesteela GX. And that is the new Celesteela, the colourless Celesteela. And the new, well, not the newer, shall we say, the newer Celesteela GX comes along with a really nice attack. I mean, the main thing we're looking at here, free colourless energy, 110, move an energy from this Pokemon to one of your bench. You got a bad weakness to lightning, admittedly, but take all of that away, you get to do damage while moving energy to set up one of your other Ultra Beasts. I really quite like that. However, it's also got the GX attack, Discovery GX. Count your prize cards and put them into your hand, then take that many cards from the top of your deck and put them face down as your prize cards. I.e., you can basically pick up all your prizes. And firstly, that means anything prized you can get. Secondly, it gives you a, well, potentially +6 hand advantage. Because you're taking cards into your hand from your prizes, but then you're putting them back from the top of your deck. So you end up with a card advantage there. Now, there is a nice ability as well, as long as this Pokemon is active, prevent all effects of your opponent's GX attacks, including damage done to your Pokemon. And I slow rolled you a little, because this is really what we're loving about the deck. You whack Celesteela in the active, and all of a sudden, all your Pokemon are immune to your opponent's GXs. Yeah, it can be turned off by Power Plant, but you can plan for that. And of course, it means that our weakness is nowhere near as bad, because the GXs that would be hitting you for weakness are no longer hitting you for weakness. Now, we do play the new Nagadel. The new Nagadel, very simply, well, it's got a couple of things, actually. Firstly, it's draw power. You get to discard an Ultra Beast from your hand and draw 3 cards. That's really nice, of course, because, well, you know, draw power. Draw power's important. But it also lets you hit 170 damage to the bench. 1 Psychic, 3 colourless energy. Discard 2 energy from this Pokemon, do 170 to one of your opponent's bench. It's enough to KO a Jirachi, it's enough to KO a Dedenne, and maybe they're playing a Mew, and if they're playing a Mew, they're playing a Mew. But if they're not playing a Mew, things go in your favour very, very quickly indeed. It's a very, very nice card. Now, they are the GXs. There's also a tag team GX. It is Pheromosa and Buzzwole. Pheromosa and Buzzwole comes along with 1 grass energy, 30 to the active, 30 to your opponent's bench. But we love the GX attack here. 50 damage if you take a KO, take an extra prize. If you've got at least 7 extra energy attached, then you get to take 3 extra prize cards. And that's not going to happen all that often. It's not a terribly reliable GX attack. It's not one that's always going to work, but when it does work, it is out and out, over the top, phenomenal. There's also an attack that does 190 for free energy, which is alright. It's nothing phenomenal, it's not out and out crazy, but it's a nice little attack here. And there you're kind of your big boys. But then you've got all your little boys as well. And these give you a huge amount of options. We've got Duskmane Necrozma. Now, this is the one that only came out as a promo, but did actually come out as 2 different promos. Now, in the early game, 1 Metal Energy, 60 damage to one of your opponent's EX or GX, is kind of nice. It's a nice little attack. But 2 metal, 1 colourless energy, 100 damage. If your opponent has exactly 1 prize card remaining, 200 damage. Good if you're hitting for weakness, and especially good if your opponent has exactly one prize card remaining. Remember, we're playing lots of different cards here. The whole point of this deck is that you can match your deck to the situation. You can play whatever it is you need at the time, rather than being forced into one strategy which might not work. We also have a circuitry here. For my money, the best of the Ultra Beasts, I mean in terms of design. Now, it's actually the second one, the one that came around in Unified Minds, 30 damage base, but 120 if your opponent has exactly 3 prize cards remaining. So it's only really good when your opponent's got 3 prize cards remaining, but then you're doing 120 for a single energy on a Pokemon that only gives up 1 prize. Now, you can do 50 damage and Confusion for 2 lightning energy, which is fine. Confusion can buy you some time, make your opponent flip to attack. If Tails, they do 30 damage to themselves. Nothing to you. It's alright, but shall we say it is, it's not what you want to be going for, and if you're going for it, it's probably going badly. Now, the other two we play we're probably a bit more familiar with. We've got that really good Nihilego that for a single psychic energy lets you copy any of your opponent's attacks, just so long as your opponent has exactly 2 prize cards remaining. So if they've got 3 prize cards remaining, Circuitry, or Buzzwole, more on that in a moment. If they've got 2 prize cards remaining, Nihilego. If they've got 1 prize card remaining, Duskmane Necrozma. And yeah, we got that Buzzwole that does 120 for a single energy if your opponent has 3 or 4 prize cards remaining. There are an awful lot of options coming out here. Now, there are actually a couple of Pokemon here which are not even Ultra Beasts. Not many, don't worry. We've got White Kyurem. Now, White Kyurem here is the one from Lost Thunder. They've seen a fair amount of play. 2 colorless energy, 30 damage. If your opponent has a stadium card in play, discard it. 2 water and 1 colorless energy, 160 if this Pokemon has any fire energy attached to it. Well, we're playing a whole bunch of different energy and a bunch of different Pokemon, so why not? This could be a really nice attack. And it hits a really nice weakness because Welder's around, which makes fire Pokemon really good. And then we've got one of that there Fairy Mimikyu. Now, there have been actually quite a lot of Mimikyu released. It's one of those Pokemon that just seems to see quite a lot of love. But to be specific, it's the one that came out in Team Up. Copycat. We want it here for Copycat. 1 fairy, 1 colorless energy. If your opponent used a non-GX attack during their last turn, you get to use it as this attack. So your opponent's going and using really big attacks. Cool. Copy them. That could be fun. The deck does also play Tapu Lele, but they're really easily switched out for Dedenne, so don't worry your pretty little heads about it. So that's the Pokemon line. What about the energy line? Now, the energy line is where we run into a bit of a wall here, because, of course, Japan has a slightly different format from us at the moment, and the energy line is where it comes out. Playing Rainbow Energy, not a problem. You want to be playing Rainbow Energy because you got lots of different typings. Rainbow can be any of them. And you want to play a Beast Energy because it can be any of them, while also allowing you to do an extra 30 damage. That's pretty huge. But the deck also plays Counter Energy and Double Colorless Energy. And it's not always going to be easy, shall we say, to switch them out. Now, sometimes it is. If you're playing the Nagadel GX, then Double Colorless comes out, Triple Acceleration Energy is better, because it's 1 Psychic and a Triple Acceleration, rather than 1 Psychic, a Double Colorless, and something else. And similarly for the non-GX Ultra Beast, you're almost always just using the single energy attacks anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But the double colorless could be really good for Celesteela, and could also be really nice here if you're using White Kyurem, and the counter energy could be really good for Mimikyu, so I'm not saying it makes the deck unplayable. If I thought it was unplayable in Standard, I would have been up front at the beginning and said, this is expanded only. But I do think you might want to make a couple of changes. Maybe you flick in a couple of different Pokemon to really take advantage of the single energy nature, rather than relying on something like counter energy. I think it'll work without counter and double colorless, which is why I'm bringing it to you. Oh, speaking of single energy Pokemon, we forgot to mention Marshshadow. Marshshadow is really nice because it can discard your opponent's stadium, but it can also hit 70 against an Ultra Beast. So if you're against Ultra Beasts, especially something like Nagadel, where you're hitting weakness, and they're a non-GX, you can do a nice amount of damage here. Now, in terms of trainers, there are a few that are particularly useful here. Counter Gain is great, especially if you're behind on prizes, because it only works if you are. It reduces the attack cost of your Pokemon by 1 colourless energy, which is really nice, well, just for attacking a bit faster. And you've got lots of single prize Pokemon, so there'll be plenty of times you go behind and then make a comeback, bearing in mind a lot of these Pokemon work when your opponent's taken a few prizes, so that's really, really nice. Cherish Ball is great because you've got a lot of GXs in the deck, so this is going to search them out rather beautifully. And you've got Mysterious Treasure, which is going to get all of your Psychic Pokemon as well as your Naganadel, which is a Dragon Pokemon. And of course, we've also got Ultra Space, a lovely stadium here, which is, well, it just searches out all of your Ultra Beasts, which this deck really relies upon. So we've got a lot of Pokemon search here. We do play a single copy of Pokemon Communication because it's a Pokemon heavy deck. Lets you search a Pokemon you want from your deck in exchange for a Pokemon you don't from your hand. But really here we have got enough Pokemon search, and that's rather lovely. We do also here, once again, see a fairly heavy reliance on tag team Pokemon. Cynthia and Caitlin is pretty gosh darn good. Cynthia and Caitlin lets you get a supporter card from the discard while drawing 3 cards. Pretty much everyone plays that at the moment. But we also end up here with Guzma and Hala. And Guzma and Hala lets you search out a stadium. Oh, it's Ultra Space and lets you get your Pokemon. A tool, hey, remember Counter Gain. And an energy, hey, we like special energy like Rainbow and Beast. So Guzma and Hala just becomes a phenomenal card in this deck. We absolutely adore it. It is very much our boy. And of course, Tag Call then becomes pretty important, given that we're playing a bunch of tag team Pokemon and a bunch of tag team supporters. I love this deck. I know we're missing a couple of energy cards, but honestly, I think we can make it without it. And what we're really doing here is using a variety of attacks, giving ourselves a variety of options, and allowing us to really change our playstyle depending on the matchup with which we're faced. It's awesome. But I'd like to know what you think about it, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WasiPlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games that don't even have any Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.